In 1995, the average American middle-class family looked a little different than it does today. Back then, the average household income hovered around $35,000 a year. A new house? Families typically had 1 or 2 cars, and family dinners around the table were still the norm. Cable TV was king, with over 60% of households subscribed. The internet was barely scratching the surface. Only about 14% of US adults had ever used it. Cell phones were bulky, expensive, and rare. Most families relied on landlines, and if you wanted to talk to your friends, you had to hope no one else in the house was on the phone. Middle-class life in 1995 meant blockbuster nights, AOL trial CDs, and mall outings on the weekend. Vacations were modest road trips, camping, maybe Disney World if you could swing it. The average monthly rent was around $550, and most families lived on a single income. Moms or dads staying home with the kids wasn't unusual. Eating out was more of a treat than a routine, and home-cooked meals stretched paychecks further. The middle class was still the backbone of America, owning a home, raising a family, and having some savings was achievable for many. It wasn't flashy, but it was steady. Looking back, 1995 feels like the last breath of a simpler era. For smartphones, social media, and skyrocketing costs changed the way middle-class families live. For kids and teenagers, school in 1995 was its own world. Backpacks were stuffed with Trapper Keepers, Lisa Frank folders, and mechanical pencils. Teachers still used overhead projectors, and if you wanted to research something, you headed straight to the school library, flipping through card catalogs to find the right book. Homework wasn't done on laptops, it was scrawled out by hand. Computer labs were just starting to show up. Teenagers in 1995 didn't text each other. They passed handwritten notes during class, folded in intricate shapes. After school, they'd call their friends on the landline. Stretching the phone cord across the hallway to get a little privacy, parents yelled if you tied up the line too long. Television was still the center of family life. Thursday nights were dedicated to must-see TV on NBC, with shows like Friends and Seinfeld. Kids tuned in to Full House, Boy Meets World, or The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Saturday mornings were still sacred cartoon marathons fueled by bowls of sugary cereal.
I'd go into the movie.
Cost around $4.50 a ticket. Families packed into theaters to watch Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature, or thrillers like Seven and Heat. For home entertainment, Blockbuster was a ritual. Families wandered through aisles of VHS tapes, negotiating over which movie to rent, hoping the last copy of the newest release wasn't already taken. Music in 1995 blasted from CD players, boomboxes, and Walkmans. Grunge was fading, but alternative rock thrived. Bands like Oasis, Green Day, and Alanis Morissette dominated the charts, while teens tuned into MTV for music videos, not reality TV. The mall wasn't just for shopping, it was the social hub. Teenagers spent entire Saturdays walking from Spencer's Gifts to Sam Goody, trying on clothes at the Gap and grabbing Orange Julius smoothies. Parents browsed Sears for appliances or JCPenney for clothes, while younger kids begged for trips to the arcade. Restaurants were chain favorites: Applebee's, TGI Fridays, and Pizza Hut, with its red plastic cups. Families treated themselves to sit-down meals once or twice a week. Fast food was booming. 2 McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Burger King were cheap, quick stops that didn't break the bank. Weekends often included Little League games, soccer matches, or sleepovers. Suburban neighborhoods buzzed with the sound of lawnmowers and kids riding bikes without helmets until dusk. A typical middle-class home in 1995 might have had a desktop computer, but it was considered a luxury. If you were lucky, it ran Windows 95, complete with the famous startup sound. Families shared the machine, mostly for word processing, Minesweeper, and the novelty of dial-up internet. Logging onto AOL meant enduring the screech of the modem, waiting for the familiar voice. You've got mail. Websites were basic, text-heavy, and slow. Search engines like Yahoo were in their infancy, and Google didn't exist yet. Most people still relied on encyclopedias for real research. At home, technology also meant VCRs, cassette tapes, and maybe a Nintendo 64 or PlayStation if you had the money. Gaming wasn't online, yet kids huddled around the TV, passing controllers back and forth. Holidays and traditions. Holidays in the mid-90s carried their own charm. Families decorated Christmas trees with strands of colored lights and handmade ornaments. Gifts were wrapped in shiny paper, often including the newest toys like Beanie Babies, Tamagotchis, or Super Soakers. Halloween meant pillowcases stuffed with candy, costumes pieced together from thrift shops, and haunted houses run by neighbors. Thanksgiving dinners were big, home-cooked affairs with everyone gathered around the table, not distracted by phones. The 4th of July was celebrated with backyard barbecues, sparklers, and small-town parades. Middle-class families built traditions rooted in togetherness, time spent with relatives, friends, and neighbors. What stands out most about 1995 middle-class life was on just the prices or the gadgets. It was the sense of stability. Families felt they could work hard, save, and have a fair shot at home ownership. The middle class wasn't a dream, it was the default. Looking back, it feels like the calm before the storm. The internet would soon explode, changing how families communicated, worked, and spent their free time. Costs of living would rise faster than incomes. The middle-class lifestyle of 1995 would slowly become harder to reach. For those who lived it, 1995 remains frozen as a snapshot of balance, a world where paychecks stretched further. Kids played outside until the streetlights came on, and the pace of life felt just a little bit slower.